Hi there and welcome back everyone to the Satyrian Technical Series podcast. This is me, your host, Ross Robertson, SAP Senior Authorizations Consultant with Satyrian Technologies, bringing you back into the technical series where we discuss all things SAP technical in the SAP Technical Security Administration space. This is a follow-on from our last episode where we discussed the creation of SAP Fiori Catalogues, which we now understand are the technical foundations blocks of assigning or getting our Fiori-based access to our end users. Today, we will be focusing on the front-end component of Fiori interaction and our user experience, specifically towards the maintaining, creating, and administration of the Fiori Spaces and Pages, which is how we get our Fiori apps in front of our end users. And having said that, I'm going to share my screen and take us in. All right, so in our last session, we got to the point of creating our catalog. We now move from the back end into the front end of Fiori. And as such, I am currently operating on our Fiori Launchpad, where we'll make use of two Fiori apps. That would be your Fiori app for maintaining of Fiori Spaces and then maintaining of Fiori Pages. Right, we'll discuss those two terms in conjunction, and then also just briefly mention some best practices around how we recommend that these areas are set up for your Fiori Launchpad for optimizing your user experience. All right, these are the two apps that I've mentioned. So Manage Launchpad Spaces and Manage Launchpad Pages. The technical structure of this is that your highest level of this hierarchy will be your Launchpad Spaces. These are the items that I see on the top of my dashboard here, on top of my Launchpad. Manage Launchpad Pages are then sub items or drop downs within your spaces whenever you have more than one page allocated to a space. And then within pages themselves, you are able to set up small defined areas that hold the Fiori tiles themselves. Those are called sections. So essentially, your tiles are housed within sections of your Fiori Launchpad page. Those pages then roll up into Launchpad Spaces. Now, when it comes to Fiori, runtime optimization is key. So over allocation or over assigning of Fiori tiles and target mappings can lead to a very detrimental effect on your actual SAP runtimes, which of course then results in users being very upset that their dashboard or their Launchpad is taking a long time to load, finding the apps that they need to do their daily functions. So from a user experience point of view, that can get quite frustrating. So as such, we have some recommendations on how to set up your Fiori Spaces, Pages, and Sections, just based on a best practice. This would be our recommendations to a client that hopefully you can take on board as well. So when referring to a space, that is our highest level over here, we of course create that as the foundation. So one space. Within that space, we recommend between 1 to 5 pages. So only housing between 1 and 5 pages within a Fiori Launchpad space. We then roll down into our page level. So within the page itself, you have your kind of level below that, which would be your sections that are rolling up into your Launchpad page. We recommend 2 to 5 sections, or rather 1 to 5 section within your page. There's nothing wrong with having one if necessary. And then within the sections themselves, we would recommend 2 or 1 to 7 Fiori app tiles. So those sitting within a section with a maximum of 20 tiles per page. So with that, SAP's runtime operates on loading all of these tiles, these target mappings, whenever you open up a page or you're navigating through your Launchpad. We want to operate on the leanest possible setup so that our users have a smooth interaction with their Fiori Launchpad, and we don't get the end user frustration of long load times, for example. Right. The core of our demonstrations today is kind of following that process, setting up the space, drilling down into that, setting up the page, how we'd set up our sections, and then of course adding our Fiori tiles to those sections. So starting at the space level, right, you'll see some predefined setup spaces that have already been created in the system. This is effectively your overview. I'm going to create a new space here. All right, so let's call it Z Space Demo. All right, for today's demonstration. All right, our description or short description for our administrators. I'm just going to call it, let's call it Tech Series Demo Space. All right, and then what we want to see in our navigation bar, as we saw in our Launchpad there, what is the title of this space going to be that our end users are going to see on their end. So in the last session, we set up a demo catalog that was around managing of purchase orders. And as such, I'm just going to call this page purchase order processing. Or the space purchase order processing. All right. We also have the ability to create a page in this step. However, we can create the page once we go into the space itself. I'll demonstrate that shortly. But while we're here, let's just take our, let's create the page alongside our space. So we'll have AZ page demo. We'll call it the Tech Series Demo Page, and then the title for that will be Purchase Order Page, just so that I can show you the difference between the space and the page. I don't want them being exactly the same for demo purposes. Right, we're going to have to allocate that to a customizing request. So that being our Fiori Spaces and Pages. Of course, we're working in the customization layer of SAP. So we'll add it to our transport here. Going to create that, and now we are in our space content. So we see our space title up here, we see the space description, and shortly I'll demonstrate that once we assign this to a user in SAP and come back into our Launchpad, we'll navigate that space together. Right, so within our space, we see the page that we've created. All right, and if I were to open up that page, and I'll have the ability to edit our page. So I've come from the space layer. All right. I can, of course, edit that to add a new page, of course, over and above that, but we don't want that right now. So let's go into our page itself. And we're going to edit. We're going to add a new section. Okay. A section within our page would be called Purchase Order Processing. So we're effectively in the UI, or how the end user is going to experience this. So if I create our section, and then we're going to, now the next step is to add our Fiori Tiles. As such, I'm going to search for the custom catalog we created in our last session. Right. Once I select that catalog, I can see the Fiori apps and tiles that are housed within that catalog. I'm going to drag our catalog into our section, and all that's left is for me to save that. Okay, we can see this page and space is not currently assigned to a role. So in the same way we provision Fiori catalogs to our end users by assigning those catalogs to a role menu, we need to assign a space to the role menu as well to ensure the user gets this view when they are logging onto the Fiori Launchpad. Right, we can see that the space, this page is assigned to this space. We can see that the page and the corresponding space are belonging to this transport customizing request. We have effectively set up our space, page, and section. Perhaps, as I mentioned, you can add multiple sections to a page. I can perhaps say, let's call it purchase requisitions, if we wanted to split this up as an example, or since we're working in a purchase order page and space, we perhaps want to separate between our processing and reporting tiles, right? All with the end goal of just optimizing the end user experience. Okay, so I've saved this. We're now going to go into SAP itself, right? And I'm going to show us how we set this up. So let's go to PFCG. We're going to create a role. Okay. Right under our role menu. Yes, we'd like to save the role. Role menu. As I said, we need to add our Fiori catalog and the corresponding space into this role. So let's do Launchpad catalog. So that's Z catalog _ demo. All right. We can see our catalog loading into the role with all the corresponding or underlying Fiori OData services. All right. We then add our space, which will be Z space demo 1. That's now in our role. Going to save the role. All right, I'm going to save that. We can then come into the role itself to populate our authorization values. Of course, in any other scenario, we want to investigate the open fields and maintain them as per best practice, but we won't get into SU20. We have previously gone into SU24 fixes. We won't take our time doing that now, but the role is now currently available. I can add it to the user that I'm currently logged in with on the Fiori Launchpad, and to do a user comparison. Right. You can see now that that role is assigned. It is available in my user buffer. I'm going to come back into Fiori. Let's navigate back to our home page. Let's refresh. Okay. We now have our purchase order page, or rather space, available to us. In some certain Launchpad configurations, you will see the pages that are available to you here as well. However, I'm going to navigate to my purchase order processing space. I see now only my purchase order processing page, and we also only see the sections where we have applicable Fiori tiles. You'll remember I created 2 sections within this page, but as I don't have any tiles within that section, it's not visible to me from the Launchpad perspective. If I then want to, from the end user perspective, right? If I then want to open my app, I can now go into my Manage Purchase Orders app. This is now from the end user perspective, how we're experiencing this once the setup has been done. All right. And with that, I think that goes to show how our spaces and pages are set up, some best practice tips on how to set up your spaces and pages and the sections themselves, optimizing our user experience, not slowing down any runtime while they're going about their daily activities. And as always, I hope that you, our audience, have taken some good value from this. Please reach out if there are any questions or discussions that you'd like to have on the matter. And we look forward to seeing you in our next Technical Series podcast. Thank you all, and goodbye.